So I started off talking earlier, and I mentioned one word which we never got to. I asked what you thought about it. That's the word Talmud, right? Tav, Lamed, Mem, Dalet. And then I started talking about the alphabet. The thing is, this serves as a prefix. This is the word, Lamed. So you pronounce it Lamed. Have you ever heard of the word Talmudim?
Yeah, disciples.
It means disciples. Okay, so here, Talmudim, if you add im, which is actually the suffix yod mem, it's plural. So in English, we just put an S, Talmuds. And the word that we use in English is disciple, which comes from the basic word discipline. It's the same word, right?
Yeah.
So why did the Hebrew word Talmudim get turned into disciple? Well, this letter right here, our letter L, the Paleo-Hebrew, some people write it like that. It's a shepherd's staff, or whether it's drawn like that. It's a shepherd's staff. It's the 12th letter, and so people say that it represents authority, being 12, but the shepherd's staff represents authority. If you look in a dictionary, the word lamed simply means teach and learn. It means both teach and learn, and it also means to repeat. So how do you teach? Again and again, over and over. That's the method, which the way our brains are designed, so that's what you do. Lamed is simply those who either teach or learn and go over it repeatedly. So the Talmud is teachings and learning and repetition. Disciples are the taught ones who discipline themselves according to the teachings. So it's essentially the same thing. So when that one guy at the Jewish bookstore said, didn't he tell us to regard the Talmud? Why I said it was a trick question is like, yes, he did. But it all depends on how you think, what is the Talmud? If you think, oh, the Talmud is that collection of Jewish writings, which I'm saying this big, but from what I understand, if you have all the books lined up on a shelf, they might reach 10 feet across. And there's Babylonian Talmud as well, there's Jerusalem Talmud, two different sets of writings. But what I'm saying is that if you think, oh, it's that stuff we're talking about, not necessarily. Every time Yahweh said, like with the Aaronic benediction, he said, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aharon and his sons, saying, so Yahweh speaks to Moshe, he's supposed to speak to Aaron, and he's supposed to speak to his sons, who are the Kohanim, the priests, and they're going to speak to the children of Israel. This is how you bless my people. And then he gives them that phrase, which is the Aaronic benediction. But this linkage from Yahweh to Moses to Aaron to the sons to the people, that's all teaching and learning. So literally, this word Talmud isn't a bad word at all. As a matter of fact, you go to a Christian bookstore, it's all Talmud. You go to church, it's Talmud. These songs we were just singing, it's Talmud. It's repeating the teachings, and so we learn, and so we become the teachers. So other people can learn. And it's handing it down like a relay from person to person. That's what Talmud is, which is everything we do. If you just read a Bible, oh, those are the words, what does it mean? As soon as somebody tells you, oh, this is what it means, that's Talmud. That's speaking and teaching and learning. So just so you know, the stigma that certain words have are not necessarily factual, really. Now here's another thing I want to bring up about what we're going to do tonight. If we say in English that somebody says blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's a basic verb. Somebody's speaking. But in Hebrew, there's two different words which are translated as that. One is spelled Aleph, Mem, Resh, and the other one is Dalet, Bet, Resh. Amer and Dabar. So in Genesis 1, it says, Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or. va yehi or. Now in English it's translated, so God says, let there be light. Listen to this phrase. Let there be light, and there was light. See, in English, he says one thing, and then something else happens. The words, let there be, are not the same words as, and there was. But we make the correction in our mind and say, oh, well, he commanded light to exist, and so light existed. But we have to put it into this tense of future and then past, but that's not what it says in Hebrew. What it says in Hebrew is, this is what he said. Yod, He, Yod, Aleph, Vav, Resh. And then, Yod, He, Yod, Aleph, Vav, Resh. Exactly the same. It wasn't let there be and there was. It was simply exist light and exist light. But we see, we can't even say that in English. We have to say, he said light exist and light existed. We always have to add something else in English. But this, it says, Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or, and what happened? Yehi Or. So this word Amer literally means a declaration, a command. If you look at the dictionary, it also says fine, high, lofty utterances, and it's the picture of antlers on an elk that just sweep off up into the sky. What does a word have to do with the antlers of an elk? It's the majestic sweeping up of like, whoa, this is the statement of the Creator to say, Yehi Or, bam, and Yehi Or happened. That's a mare. It kind of loses something with the word says. In fact, we might even go shorthand and say, says, S-E-Z or something. It's just. This word debar is a little different. This word here is translated probably half a dozen different ways. It's speech, talk, word, matter, thing. As a matter of fact, the Ten Commandments? Well, they're not really commandments. They're debar with the yod-mem suffix, so they're debarim. So actually call them 10 matters or 10 things is more actual than 10 commandments because there's a different word for commandment. But they're 10 matters. And then in Hebrew, you might say, well, how many? There's 10. Okay. Well, no, wait a minute. The word 10 in Hebrew means to make one wealthy, to enrich one's life. So really, in English we have 10 commandments, but in Hebrew it says, these are the matters by which one's life is enriched and you are made wealthy. Well, it's a whole different type of regard than 10 commandments. But the other thing about this word debar, now it gets a little tricky. If you have a flock of sheep or goats, the guy behind them, the drover, driving them on, pushing them on with the shepherd's staff, that's that word. The drover, the guy behind, is the debar. Now, where's he pushing them? He's driving them to the pasture. So they're going to walk all day, and then they're going to get to the pasture. So what's at the end? What follows the hike, the walk? The pasture, right? Water, food. Okay, that thing which is at the end of the walk, which is actually in your future, is also the debar. So in a sense, it's what's in front of you, but it's also what's behind you, because you get to your future at the end of your day, after your day. It's this tricky thing of time, right? So if you put a mem in front of the word debar, it's the word wilderness, because mem is a place, so it's the place of the pasture. But see, in English, when we say wilderness, we think desert, but it's actually a place of pasture. But this is actually the word. Remember, debar means word. So midbar can also mean the place of words. Well, where do you find words? Where would you find words if you went looking for them?
Newspapers, books.
Those are all midbar. Go to a library. Open up the Torah. Those are all midbar. It's the place of words. As a matter of fact, the alphabet that we're studying is a midbar. It's a place of words. So how do you know what they're talking about? Well, that's why they put vowel points to steer you this direction or that direction. But technically, it could be any of those things. So if debar is that which follows, or whether it's the person driving you or that which you expect to get at the end, you'll find if you look in the dictionary that also debar means pestilence or plague. Well, wait a minute, that's bad stuff. If you work all week, you expect to get a paycheck. That's kind of like you're being driven, the drover behind you is pushing you all week, and you get to the end and you get your paycheck. That's like the blessing at the end. That's like the pasture at the end. So here this word can mean pasture or plague, or that which drives you on, like wanting to get the paycheck, or it can mean the words that he spoke. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Every time he tells us something, you'll notice in the Hebrew that it's either amer or debar. It's simply translated says. Or the word came to so-and-so. Either it's a matter of these are the majestic declarations, the utterances of the King of the universe, which ought to be listened to just because, like if Shakespeare's saying something, you're not going to get any benefit one way or the other than maybe he's just going to wow, I just got to hear those words. What's he saying? You know, Shakespeare's known to be such great oratory, or somebody else who's a comedian, or Will Rogers, I guess, used to be like that, right? Or there's some other real famous people. You just say something. I just want to hear your voice. Or maybe a musician. Just play a few notes. That's Amar. You just want to hear what they have to say because it's so great. But Debar, he's going to give us some instructions. And depending on whether we listen to him, what follows is either the blessing or the curse. So, it's like the carrot and the stick. Hold the carrot in front of the donkey and he'll try to take a bite and walk forward. And if he says, I'm not interested in that, well, there's a stick. So either avoid the stick or go for the carrot. It's your choice. They both are in effect. But debar is this matter of where he says, I'm telling you the way it works. And they're both always at play. It's not a matter of like, well, either you'll get this, or we can have another system where you get that. But somehow there's this dynamic of both tension, and we're the one in the middle who's having to choose. What I've tried to notice as I'm reading through Hebrew is notice the places where it's amer, notice the places where it's debar, and realize in English it just says, it misses the significance. Here's the thing. Whenever he said amer, it's so great we should just listen. Because there's something about it which is beyond our comprehension of really how wonderful it is. Wherever it's debar, we better listen because either we've got this blessing to be gained or this curse to be avoided. Either way, we should really pay attention and actually implement and do what he says. So there's one more thing to mention here about what he says. Numerous times, and we'll go about these words later on in the week, but there's this word spelled Shema, Shem Ayin. It means to hear or listen. Hear, O Israel, that's that word Shema. But it's more than hear. It's hear and believe and do something. If you don't do it, you're not really believing. Or if you say you believe and you don't implement it, you're not really listening. So because if you listen to his voice, the debar or the amer, and you really heard what he was saying, so quite often you'll see this word written twice, one in a slightly different verb form. And it doesn't mean hear and hear, or as you hearing, in your hearing, if you hear, you don't really put it into English, but that's where Yeshua said, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. It's this kind of a phrase. And this is one of the most commonly used and most significant action verbs in the entire Scripture, is hear, which is why when the thing that the Jews say once a day, 3 times a day, or have it on their dying lips is Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. We can go into that later, why they say that. But Shema is the active verb. This is what he's asking. But the other one is like to it, which he told Adam to do in the garden, which is Shin Mem Resh, which is Shamar, which is watch, keep, guard, pay real close attention, and remove the dregs, which is to say, if you're filtering out some fruit juice, some wine, and you have this sediment, and you want to get the crud out, or anything that you're purifying, Adam was told to shamar the garden. It's translated guard, but there's way more to this word than simply guard. Keep, tend, keep it clean, keep it right. So in spite of whatever differences we might have in terms of when does a day start, when does a week, a month, a year, a Shemitah, a Yovel, I mean all these things, and which is the right day of the Sabbath, it goes, oh gosh, the list. We're trying with the common heart to shamar what he said to Shema. That's what this is about. So, we're about to do the communion remembrance because he said so. Whether we understand it or not, whether we got all the repercussions figured out, or what will happen if I do, if I don't, doesn't matter. We're expecting that either just because he said so, Amer, just because. But Debar, there might be a blessing to be gained or some sort of lack to be avoided for the sake of doing so also. So it's just a matter of saying whatever we do, learning this language isn't just a bunch of blah blah nonsense. There's this richness about it because when he tells us to Shema and Shomer his Debar, this is the creator of the universe speaking to the people whose mind he invented specifically to do this very thing. Our brains, our inner beings, our nephesh, our ruach, was designed specifically like a hand fit the glove for our being to engage his voice of instruction. And that's what lamed means. What he authorized, lamed, we mem take to our inner self. Dalet is a door. A door is a place of a choice where you can choose this or that. So it's like, gosh, we take his instructions to heart and we become changed by those things. Memory is a place of incubation. And so we know how to make the decisions based on his instruction so that we will have success and victory and be righteous and be pleasing to him. And when we stand on that day in front of him, we can hope to hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant. Because we've regarded the instructions of his staff, which is the Torah itself. Later on we can go back and tie all these words and letters together, but what I'm saying is, all that's in the word Talmud. All this stuff. So, Yeshua came to elaborate, enunciate, clarify, make real and tangible, make tangible the instructions. We'll get into that later too. But so we'll do what he says here, as Tim will then lead us in. Here, you want to pull this aside?